My name is Elijah Cole, and I'll be presenting our work on multi-label learning from single positive labels. These are images from the ImageNet dataset. Each image contains multiple object classes, but only one object class corresponds to the official image-level label. In fact, each of these images contains multiple ImageNet classes. ImageNet can therefore be viewed as a multi-label classification dataset where we observe one positive label per image, and all other labels are unknown. More generally, we refer to this setting as single positive only annotation. The ground truth label vector for an image consists of positive and negative labels. This image has 5 positive labels. The rest of the labels are negative, corresponding to object classes that are not present in the image. In the single positive only annotation setting, only one positive label is observed for each image. All other labels are unobserved and may be either positive or negative. In this paper, we study methods for training multi-label classifiers using only one positive label per image. Successfully addressing this problem would significantly reduce the cost of annotating training data for multi-label classifiers. A number of papers have studied the problem of multi-label learning with partial labels, but they typically require both positive and negative labels. PU learning aims to train classifiers using only positive and unlabeled data. However, these methods often require strong side information such as class priors. Finally, there are several application areas such as species distribution modeling and weakly supervised representation learning where single positive labels arise naturally. Our work systematically investigates loss functions for training deep multi-label classifiers using one positive label per image. As before, let's assume we have single positive only annotations, so each image has one confirmed positive label and all other labels are unobserved. The most common approach to learning with single positive labels is to assume that all unobserved labels are negative. Since most images have far fewer ground truth positives than ground truth negatives, this assumption often leads to the correct label. However, there will be a small number of unobserved positives which are incorrectly treated as negatives. In our experiments, we find that treating even a small number of positives as negatives can lead to a significant drop in performance. In the paper, we investigate several modifications to this approach, which are designed to mitigate the impact of unobserved positives. We also introduce an approach for training with single positive labels called regularized online label estimation, or ROLE. The idea of ROLE is to optimize the labels and the image classifier simultaneously during training, similar to an expectation maximization algorithm. To do this, we need to learn the parameters of two differentiable functions f and g. F is a standard image classifier, which produces a vector of per-class predictions based on an input image xn. G is a function which returns an estimated label vector for a given image ID n. For instance, G could simply return the appropriate row of a differentiably parameterized label matrix. The estimated labels produced by G are used to supervise F. In addition, F is encouraged to predict the observed positive labels correctly. Finally, we assume that we know the expected number of positive labels per image, which we call K. Note that K is a single fixed value for a given dataset. We use K to define a regularization term which penalizes F for predicting too many or too few positives in a batch. G is updated using losses analogous to those we have described for F. The system is then trained end-to-end, with F and G being optimized simultaneously. In our experiments, we use fully labeled multi-label datasets and simulate single positive annotation by discarding all but one positive label per image. Here we show mean average precision on the y-axis and number of observed labels on the x-axis, which is in log scale. The black curve corresponds to fully supervised training using all ground truth labels. The blue curve corresponds to observing one positive label per image and assuming that all other labels are negative. The orange curve is our strong baseline for single positive training, which combines the assumed negative approach with label smoothing to mitigate the effect of the label errors. The green curve is for single positive training with ROLE. Surprisingly, ROLE is competitive with fully labeled training despite using vastly fewer labels. This figure shows the distribution of predictions for unobserved positives in the training set at each epoch. When we treat unobserved positives as negative, most of the unobserved positives are forced to be close to 0. Here is the same plot for ROLE. We can see that ROLE is capable of automatically discovering a significant fraction of unobserved positives during training. In the paper, we provide an extensive comparison of different algorithms across several datasets for both linear classifier training and end-to-end fine-tuning. We find that using simple but carefully designed techniques, it is often possible to train effective multi-label classifiers using only one positive label per image. Thanks for watching. Code is available on our project page.